I was gonna record this video with the mic still on the stand, but I think I'm gonna pull it off because honestly, I think having the mic in my hand makes me feel so much more comfortable. I get it now. I get why commentary YouTubers carry mics. I'm gonna pull it off the stand. Before I start the video, I just wanted to start off first of all saying thank you everybody for all the likes and the love on my first video. I really appreciate it. And while you're here for a much more fun and much more upbeat video, I would just like to remind you that you should go ahead and like and subscribe on this video and give me a comment, tell me what you think of the video, tell me your thoughts and opinions on this. Make sure you hit the notification bell too, because I'm gonna keep making videos. I know this one took a little longer to get out than last time, but I was on vacation. Anyways, on with the video. So, if you clicked on this video, you probably like characters like Klaus Hargreaves, or Eddie Munson, maybe Robin Buckley, or Luna Lovegood. And if you like these characters, there's a very good chance that your favorite type of character in most movies and shows, sometimes even books, is the black sheep outcast character. That's what I'm going to call them for this video. Now, you're probably wondering what the black sheep outcast character really is, and it's basically those characters that don't fit in with the rest of the characters in the movie or show, or don't fit in with what's considered normal in whatever universe it is that they're in. And being the weird kid growing up, I always connected to those characters. The ones who were always weird and a little different, and usually were the side characters, I always connected with, and I love them. And I know that this is a really common thing for a lot of people, and so I was wondering, why is it that we're all so connected more to these weird and random side characters than we are to the main character of the show, the person we're supposed to connect with and we're supposed to enjoy the most? Now, before we can get into what the black sheep outcast character is, we should probably talk about the main characters and why no one ever seems to pick the main character as their favorite, or most of the time they don't. There are often, or sometimes, cases where you might pick the main character as your favorite, but for the most part, a lot of movies and shows, people's favorite characters always tend to be the side characters. Now, for a main character, a lot of times they have a bit of a makeup that, to me at least, doesn't seem like a realistic reaction a person would have. And that, it could just be me, but whenever there's a movie or a show, when there's a call to action where the character has been told that they have magical powers, or that they are going to save the world and they're the only hope, you know, the chosen one, a lot of times when they're brought to that, the majority of the time they don't want to do it at first. Now, this again is my own personal opinion, but if someone came up to me, could prove to me that they had magical powers, and then told me that I also had magical powers, and I was the chosen one to save the world, I would instantly be like, yes, let's go right now. Yes, that sounds sick. I want powers. That is cool. That could just be me. I don't know if other people think that way. Maybe it's just the fact that anytime I play D&D or I am in any sort of video game, I love being the hero. Could just be my hero complex. Who knows? But to me at least, the idea of going on these cool adventures sounds great, but the main character almost never wants to. Like, for example, in Harry Potter, in the very first book, in the very first movie, when Harry is greeted again by Hagrid, and Hagrid tells him that he's a wizard and he's going to be going to wizarding school, Harry just responds with,
I'm just Harry. Just Harry.
And as an 11-year-old, if someone told me I was a wizard and I get to go to wizarding school, my first reaction wouldn't just be, oh, but I'm just Harry. I'm just a person. I'm not magical. My first reaction would be, holy shit, let's go. Let's go right now. I don't care if there's still another month. Let's go right now. And so I think on that level, a part of that with main characters is something that almost takes away that relatability. Whereas a lot of people, at least people I know, would probably want to go on these adventures and would want these cool magical escapes. And another thing with these characters is a lot of times they usually have some sort of ability or magical powers that help them along the way. Like, for instance, Batman. He doesn't have any powers, but he's a billionaire. He can just buy whatever he wants. I'm not a billionaire. I can't do that. It would be sick if I could, but I'm not a billionaire. I don't have that kind of money. And with characters like Harry Potter, for instance, where he's born with magic, obviously we're not born with magic. It would be sick if we were. That would be so cool, but we're not, unfortunately. And so with that, I think a lot of these main characters who have these powers or these abilities or these special upgrades and things that they get to have that in real life we wouldn't normally get, it sort of creates that barrier between us and that main character that we're supposed to connect with and that we're supposed to love. And again, don't get me wrong, we still love these characters. There's nothing inherently wrong with these characters, but they're just not as relatable as these side characters who may not have magical powers and are just, as Ned from Spider-Man would put it, the guy in the chair. Because a lot of times, we are just the guy in the chair. I will also say that in some instances, the main character is sometimes a little boring in comparison to these other sort of side characters or these weird outcast characters. But again, that's more of just my opinion than anything. Sometimes they're not, sometimes they are. It really just depends on how well they're written and how well they're played. But you never know. You may end up loving the main character more, and sometimes the main character is the black sheep outcast. But even then, sometimes there's that one side character that just somehow manages to steal the spotlight away from them and just take everyone's love. So I'll just quickly explain what coding actually is. So for anyone who doesn't know, coding or queer coding or neurodivergent coding, ADHD coding, whatever, is basically when there is a subtextual coding on a character where they don't explicitly say certain things, but it's sort of given as just sort of a subtext, sort of to the side. So they may not directly say, yes, I have ADHD, but they may say things like, oh yeah, growing up, it was hard for me to pay attention in class, or I always struggled to make and keep friends. Things like that. I'm not saying every person with ADHD is like that, that's just the first thing that came off the top of my head because I'm like that. So with coding, it's a lot like that, where it's never directly said, but from little hints and things that they say throughout the movie or show or whatever, we can kind of gather and just assume that they might be gay or they might be autistic or whatever. That's basically all coding is. It's not something directly said, but it's hints that you can pick up along the way. Now, one thing I've noticed a lot with a lot of these characters, and that I think a lot of people on the internet have noticed as well, is a lot of these characters that we absolutely love and adore tend to be coded in certain ways, whether they're coded in a neurodivergent way or coded in a queer way. A lot of times we sort of notice these little things that we may have done ourselves when we were younger before we knew maybe we were gay, or before we knew that we were autistic, something like that. Seeing that in these characters, seeing these little quirks here and there that are supposed to just be, haha, funny, yeah, the character's just being silly, we see that and we go, well, that's just how I am. So one character that's a really good example of a typical neurodivergent coding would be Robin Buckley from Stranger Things, specifically in season 4, but a little bit in season 3. One thing that people have picked up on a lot, especially in the most recent season, is that Robin might be autistic. Now, obviously, during the 80s, getting an autism diagnosis, especially for women, was incredibly hard. So I, for one, don't expect the show at all to ever give her that diagnosis. And because of these things that people have picked up, like her saying that it took her a lot longer to start walking, or that it took her a lot longer to start talking, but then once she started talking, she never shut up, or that it's hard for her to pick up on social cues. A lot of people heard this or saw this and thought, this sounds a lot like autism. Obviously, Robin would be on the side of the autism spectrum where she can take care of herself. She doesn't need any sort of supervision, anything like that. Like, she's perfectly capable of taking care of herself, but she definitely has those little traits here and there that an autistic person would see and recognize that within themselves. And I believe that's part of the reason why so many people love Robin, is for that. And also to mention that in the 3rd season, she came out to Steve as a lesbian.
Tammy Thompson's a girl.
Steve.
Yeah? Oh.
Oh.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Holy shit.
And it was done in such a nice and simple way where she just basically explained to Steve that no, it was never you I had a crush on. It was this other girl who was always looking at you, and I was more just jealous of you than anything. And it was done so simply, but in a way that still had so much emotion to it, that again, people felt comfort and relatability between these two characters, whether or not they actually had a good experience like that or are watching it and excited to just see this character they already relate to enough getting to have that good experience. And sometimes that type of coding can be done in not the best way. Sometimes it's a little more, did they really do the research, than it is just subtle hints here and there. So with all this coding and everything, it really helps us to connect to these side characters, these characters who may not necessarily be straight or may have some sort of neurodivergent thing. Who knows? But usually the reason we like these characters is because we see ourselves inside these characters. So, for me at least, I tend to see myself in a lot of these characters that I really like. I grew up watching these shows, watching things like Wizards of Waverly Place, or later on in life I started watching things like The Umbrella Academy, Stranger Things, Harry Potter, all that stuff. And I found that every single time growing up, I always liked the side characters. It was always a certain side character that just was so funny, or dressed in a way that I thought was really fun, or just acted different from everyone else. And I liked that. Because for me personally, I grew up as the weird kid. I grew up always dressing how I wanted to dress. I did my hair how I wanted it. I do my makeup how I want it, and I'm still like that to this day. I do what I want to do because it makes me happy. And I got judged for it. I sometimes got bullied throughout school for it. It wasn't really something I talked about, and sometimes I didn't even realize I was being bullied, but that could have just been the ADHD, or just the fact that I was so annoyed that I didn't care what was happening and I was just kind of blocking them out. But because I was different, because, I was the emo kid with the dyed hair and all black clothes and the makeup that was too dark, it made me the weird outcast kid, which I think is why I like these characters so much, because I see myself in them, and I think that's why a lot of people like these characters. Like Eddie Munson in season 4 of Stranger Things, he has called himself the Freak many times, because he likes metal music, and he likes Dungeons and Dragons, and he maybe doesn't dress the way that everyone else dresses. And for that, he's the weird outcast kid. Which I think is why so many people now absolutely love him, is because we can all really relate to him. But not only in Stranger Things are there characters that we can relate to, there are plenty of other examples in movies and shows, books, video games, where the side character always ends up being an absolutely just beloved character. For example, in The Umbrella Academy, Klaus and Victor are two of the most loved characters, Five Hargreaves as well. Or in Avatar: The Last Airbender, Zuko and Toph. Zuko starts out as the main villain in the show, and by the end of it, spoiler alert, he ends up joining up with the heroes and becomes a fan favorite because of his amazing character growth, becoming this edgy, I must restore my honor prince who wants to just live up to his father's expectations to, I don't care what my father says, I know how good I am, I don't need him. And for that, he's becomes one of the fan favorites of the show. And it's so great seeing characters like that, characters who are just so authentically themselves and don't care what other people think about them and just do what they want to do. And I think a part of that is, again, why we love these characters, is because it's so great seeing a character who is just as weird as us and doesn't care that people don't like it. And for me at least, seeing characters like that help me be who I am and not care what other people think about what I'm wearing or how I do my hair or how I've decided to do my makeup. Because personally, one issue I had in high school was I like to wear heavy makeup, but I used to not wear super dark lipsticks. I always went for natural colors, so I'd have these heavy eyes, but then just a natural lip, and it wasn't the best combination. We won't talk about that part, but I remember the first time I decided to wear dark lipstick, the first thing someone said to me was, "You know it's not Halloween anymore." And personally, when people make comments like that, it just can ruin your self-esteem and make you think, oh, maybe I shouldn't have worn this. But seeing these characters, who are weird, who are out there, and just themselves and don't care, made me realize that who cares what these people think about how I'm dressed? Who cares what these people think about what I decide to do with my own body? Now, one thing in my life that I have always just absolutely hated, I despise it so much, is when someone tells someone not to do something or wear something that they love or not to do something that they love because it's not in style or not normal. Whenever I hear that, it always frustrates me because what that person is wearing or doing, as long as it's not harming somebody or harming themselves, there shouldn't be an issue with what they decide to wear. Why do we have to tell people, oh, don't wear this because it's not in style? Like I said earlier, these characters that we love so much go against that entirely. They don't listen to it and they're proud of who they are. And I think that's someone who we want to be. We want to be somebody who does not care what anyone else thinks and just does what makes us happy. And I think that's probably one of the best things to come out of these characters, is that they teach us that we can just be ourselves. And if someone has a problem with it, that's on them. So seeing these characters that don't necessarily fit into the norms of their own world decide to just be who they are and not care what other people say is a really empowering thing for people who don't necessarily get to do that or feel like they can do that, because it shows us that we shouldn't care how other people think. We shouldn't care what other people think we should do, and rather we should just do what makes us happy. But because of societal norms and, trends and things, when you do something that's a little weird or a little out there, there's always somebody that's going to make a comment. Even if you're dressed head to toe completely normal, maybe just wearing literally just a blank t-shirt and a pair of jeans and that is it, someone's gonna have something to say about it. And it's just unfortunately how life tends to be, which is why we love these characters that don't give a shit. So it really all boils down to seeing ourselves in these characters and feeling seen and feeling heard and feeling like it's okay to be ourselves, to be weird and not feel so alone while doing it. And I think because we can see ourselves in these characters and we feel like we're being represented, those characters end up becoming the most favorable people in the show, even though it was supposed to be the main character we love. And don't get me wrong, a lot of times we do love the main character, but there's just something about that black sheep side character over there that just doesn't fit in, that is just so appealing. And everyone wants to feel heard. Everyone wants to be represented, preferably well. But I think that's probably why we love these characters so much, is because we are these characters. These characters are us. And I think that's why we love them so much. At least, that's why I think I love them so much. Who knows? Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. These videos are really, really fun for me to make, and I enjoy doing every single one of them. So if you did like the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, maybe hit that notification bell, whatever else there is. And let me know your thoughts on this topic. Let me know your thoughts on some characters, if there's a certain character that you think is definitely one of those black sheep characters that everyone loves. Tell me about them. But anyways, thank you so much for watching the video. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!